So we'll start with your full name
Ilse Angove.
with an E, Ilse,
Yes.
Angove. And did you have any brothers or sisters?
I have one brother, I still have. Yeah.
Is he older, younger?
He's younger, a
Younger?
year and a half younger.
What's his name?
George.
George.
Do you want his last name?
Sure.
No, which is my maiden name. Schlesinger. Schlesinger. I know everybody in America says Schlesinger, but it's Schlesinger, softly.
So you were born in Austria. Did you grow up in Austria?
Until I was 12.
12. Where did you move to when you were 12?
We were able to go to an island in the Caribbean called Trinidad and Tobago.
So what did your father do when you were growing up?
My mother and father had a very fancy store in the center of Vienna, something alla Gucci.
Oh.
Yeah, alligator leather luggage and silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No problem. So, your parents, they own like you said, like a Gucci store, kind of like a lot of purses, a lot of leather,
Yes.
a lot of accessories.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a lot of famous women, people that came to see us. The one my father got very friendly with was oh gosh, wait a minute. Lamar, Hedy Lamar. She's from Austria, so
Okay.
she used to shop, and she was already a movie star then.
Oh.
Mm.
So when you were growing up in Vienna, what was your? I know it's kind of hard to remember, but what was your childhood like at the time? Very.
Until Hitler, couldn't have been better. My parents were nice and wealthy. We had my brother and I had a nurse, whatever they call it, not a nurse,
A nanny.
a nanny,
Yeah.
and we had a beautiful apartment on the top floor, like a penthouse, and had a lovely life. Yeah, went to school, went to synagogue, and
That's
Yeah.
It's a good childhood. So
until 12, I had a very good child.
and then 12, your parents said we have to leave. We have to-
They had to leave, and they weren't allowed to take any money with them. All the money they had to leave. Of course, the store was taken away on November when they had the Kristallnacht, which Kristall Night, and it's a famous thing because it's all over the world. They know what Kristallnight is.
Yeah.
But they absolutely destroyed every single cinema and took men off the street and sent them to the camps, and then they came two men, because my parents described it, I wasn't there, of course. Two men came in with rifles, put their hand out, said, "Give me the keys to your business and get out." And we felt so lucky that they did that, because they did not take my father. Most situations like that, they would take the man and put him on a truck. They had trucks on all the streets that they filled with people until they get them full, and then they standing, on the back of to take them to camp. And after, my father never left the apartment until we were able to move, and we got very lucky to be able to leave that soon, and it had to do with my aunt who lived in Toulouse, because years before she went to London to study for a PhD, and there she met a young man that was from Trinidad, and he was a black man, of course, and he came to London and studied to be a medical doctor. And so when they got the degrees, they all went to their home, but they kept in touch. So my aunt wrote to him that she needs, her family to go somewhere, and because all the other countries, they didn't take any refugees. America, of course, had a very small quota for Austrians, so we couldn't. And, we were on the way to Uruguay when they closed the country, and our luggage had to be sent back. So we were able to go to Trinidad, which is a small island that belongs to England at the time. Now they're independent. Yeah.
Wow, that's so. When you're a child, when you're 12, and all of a sudden, one day your father says, "We have to go," and everything gets. Well, how much were you able to pack to take with you?
Very little, but let me just put that in that. The very next day after the Anschluss, was it called? I went to school. As far as I knew, everything's normal. So it was. Everybody stand. We're going to sing the German anthem now, but the Jewish people, the Jews don't sing. You just stand there. A week later, they took all the Jews from all the schools and put them in one school where my brother and I had to take a trolley car to go to school when we were within walking distance, in Vienna. It was outside of Vienna. And so we were ready to leave. That was, and of course my father and mother had, their store was gone. And so we were able to pack, our personal clothes and stuff. Not much.
What about your? Did you have friends when you were growing up? Were they as
Oh
fortunate?
yes, I had friends, best friends, like any 12-year-old, and all of a sudden they can't talk to me. Well, I'm Jewish. They're not, so they're not allowed. We had help besides a nanny. We had a housekeeper that cleaned, and she wanted so badly, not only clean, of course, cooked and everything. She lived with us, and my mother said, "You have to go," because they were not allowed to work for Jewish people. The Christians were not allowed to work for Jewish people. So, because we had a man that a janitor, I guess it's called, that was very, very bad. So my mother said, this man is going to report you that you're here and you'll be in trouble. So she made our housekeeper go. Yeah, but,
Wow.
and soon, the Holocaust was in November, and I remember that very well. And then in December, we were able to go.
So when you left for Trinidad, how long did you stay there? Did you stay there until the war ended?
No, we went by boat, of course, from Amsterdam. We took a train to Amsterdam,
Okay.
and then we arrived in Trinidad, and we stayed with this doctor that gave us, papers that he would guarantee, and then the next 2 or 3 years, my parents found an apartment, and they got jobs, and they were working, so we were starting to get back on our feet. And then the war started. I forgot it was like 38 or 40.
Yeah.
And Trinidad, belonging to England, decided that Austrians were enemy aliens because they allowed the Anschluss. They didn't fight the Nazis not to come in. And so we got interned for 4 years. Yes. And so that was...
So you were interned in Trinidad?
In Trinidad, they built a camp with the wire around it, with British soldiers walking with guns around it, because and it took them 4 years before they released us and realized we were not enemy aliens. And you couldn't blame them, because there were a lot of enemy aliens that stopped in Trinidad. And I don't know if there were any Jewish, but
no.
Jews would be no enemy alien. Yeah.
So were the camps, were they built with okay accommodations, or were they very bad in like the desert?
I would call it okay. They allowed families to stay, in a room, and then of course all the meals and everything was done by Trinidadian. But after a few months or weeks, all the people in the camp, most of them were from Austria, decided to go to the camp commander and ask them, I know you get so much money per person. Could you allow us to do all the work that all these people are doing? We'll give you a shopping list, because they know we couldn't get out. We'll do all the cooking, the cleaning, the taking care of the yard and everything, so we don't have to eat the Trinidadian cuisine that none of us, is quite different than Austrian cooking. And they said yes, so it made it a pretty nice. Being a child, we had friends, and the adults had, what do you call it, the things you play music? Monograph? No. It has a little needle that goes on it.
Oh, the phonograph. Yeah, for records.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had concerts, some people had, good, nice records and stuff like that. So, and we did go to school.
You did?
They allowed the school-age children. There were very few, and they with a car took us to school and picked us up and back into the camp.
Okay.
But of course the adults didn't leave at all.
No. As what other camps?
Oh God, nothing to do like the Nazis. It was very much like the Americans did to the Japanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was.
And so this was your life for 4 years, and then was it one day they said, it's over, you can go home? Or
no, they let out families at a time as they investigated them.
Okay.
It just took 4 years for them to get to us, or I don't know. I don't remember.
And then you went back to your home in Austria?
Oh, no. Oh, that was taken away. No. In Trinidad, because when I got out, I was 16, and I met, and a lot of the girls, we used to go to the where the soldiers, we had dances with them, and the young people would dance with us. I mean, the teenagers.
Yeah.
And their mothers would sit and watch.
The chaperone.
Chaperone. So I met one of the soldiers, and after a few months, we met in December, and then next September we got married. So and my parents by then had opened up a house. I have a problem with words.
No, okay. So
a boarding house.
A boarding house. Okay.
Yeah, and so my husband and I got one of the rooms, and whenever he was allowed to come off camp, we stayed there.
He was a British soldier or American?
No, American soldier. American soldier, yeah. And then after about, I think it was 3 months late after we were married, that I became pregnant. And so he was able to arrange for me to go to New York where his parents were. And I lived with his parents till 1945, when my daughter was actually born, and my husband came home from the war.
So you actually came to America before the war ended?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I came in February, and the war ended, I think, in June or July of 45.
May of 45. It ended in Europe in May, and then it ended in August in Japan.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
so it's right around that area. No, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you came home. So you've finally come. What was your first impression of seeing America? This was your first time.
Well, I stayed for about 5-6 months with just his parents, and his sister was home. So that was very nice. They took me everywhere, and they were wonderful people. They accepted me, and like I was, which I was, the son-in-law. The daughter-in-law. And then when my husband got out of the army, he used to live in Connecticut, so we went back to Connecticut.
Okay.
But another hardship we had was I was allowed to bring my parents to America, but you had to be 21 years old before you could do that, and that was the law. And I was 18, so I didn't see my parents for 3 years. And then I was able to bring my mother and father. I wasn't allowed to bring my brother, but when my parents came, and they could send for their son.
Okay.
Yeah, and my parents couldn't stay in Connecticut after living 12 years in the tropics, so they went to California. And when we went to visit them, because by then we had 2 little girls, we decided we need to go to California. So we've been in California now for about 65 years or something.
So did you ever find work whenever you came to California? You just stayed at home and was a...
Well, in those days, a wife didn't work. That meant her husband couldn't afford to. So we managed pretty good without me working. I actually, my first job was when my husband passed away, and he died very early. He was 60, and I was 52 at the time, so I've been alone now for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Wow, so when did you finally stop working altogether? Like you were done, I want to retire?
Well, I never had that, because I didn't start working till I was 50.
Okay.
I went to school, and I became a travel agent, and I loved it. I worked for 25 years, and then and we, you know, had saved some money, and but I got breast cancer, nothing this serious. But at that time, the travel agency was going down with the computers, where people, you know, bought their own tickets and so, and my agency was sold, and all my friends that worked there said, "Oh, the new owner is terrible." So I decided I don't need it. I managed, and so I've been volunteering ever since. That was my job. Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah, the last 12 years especially, I belonged to an auxiliary. We worked for to raise money for the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, and we did about 100,000 a year.
Wow.
And I was the treasurer for the 10 years. So
When you look back, almost 70 years ago, at that time period, especially when the German people had influence in Europe and everything was aimed at Jewish people. When you look back at that time, now you've had all this time to think about it. Do you think differently back then about how you were treated, or how your parents were treated, or how your parents?
no, my parents, I mean, we accepted that this is what it is. You can't change that, and we felt very lucky that we didn't get to go to the camps, and like I had aunts and uncles that could have come with us, but they said, no, how much worse can it get? And we don't want to go to the jungle because nobody knew anything about Trinidad. And we never saw them again. And Israel, when I went to look for them, because they have records, so they explained to me, they have records of all the people that were in camp with the numbers, but there's thousands that went straight to the gas chambers, and that's what we had to accept. So that was a sad place in my life, and of course my second really bad is losing both of my children, first, to cancer. But I'm a very optimistic person. I have more than I...
Yes. You have a great family. You have a lot
I mean, both my daughters left me this because two of them are one daughter and the other two are the other daughter. Yeah. And now I'm ready to go, but they said, no, but I'm too healthy to go. But I have to. I mean, you can't be in a better place than this. Yeah.
It is.
When we look at my view.
It is absolutely good. It is. I like being here.
Yeah.
I have one last question.
Okay.
And that's all of it. So, if we're going to fast forward, let's say 5 years, and one of your grandchildren is watching this video, and they say they want to know about their grandmother or their great-grandmother, and they see a little girl born in Austria, has a nice, good childhood, and then out of nowhere it all stops. Then you move to a different country, and you live in a camp for years. You make do. You're just a child. You're getting through, and then you decide you're going to move and do better for yourself. So you move. You get married, and you go to America, and you start a whole new family and a whole new life. So you have 3 lives. Austria,
that's
Trinidad,
what I told
and
you.
America. So, what would you tell them that got you through all of this? What was the belief,
I believe everything will always be okay. And my grandchildren know that. And my great-grand also. I mean, when I came here, one of the great-grand went to a new school, and she wasn't doing that well. So I came and told her, I sat her down, I said, Kara, you and I have something in common. You going to a new place, I'm going to a new place. You don't know what the heck is going on there. I don't know what's going on here. and we have to help each other, and it helped her, and it helped me, and I mean everybody's so friendly here, so you can't be anything but positive, and you know you can't always think about the bad thing. No, one of the best things I have, see these two palm trees?
Yes.
And behind them you could see it's like more, well, my daughters who died just a year ago, her ashes are right there.
Really?
And I could say good morning to her. And my granddaughter, who is absolutely wonderful, takes me all over, and so we go there quite often.
Wow,
but all my grandchildren, we had a Rosh Hashanah, which is a New Year, and we were 20 at one of my granddaughters. 20. My brother, well, I got 6 grandchildren. I mean, sorry, I got 4 grandchildren. They all have partners and married, so that makes it 8. 3 of them have 2 children each,